This home in Kailua was sold for $1.15 last summer, and it came back at $1.69. I'm Oksana with Island Living Oahu, and we're in Kailua's Kalaheo Hillside pocket, looking at exactly what happened in between those two numbers because unlike a lot of properties where a price jump like that raises questions, this one has a clean, documented answer. And it's worth understanding if you're weighing whether a renovation project actually pays for itself on this island. Here's what changed. When this home sold last summer, it was a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house at just under 1,300 square feet. Today, it's a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom home at just under 1,700 square feet. Permitted work added roughly 400 square feet, along with an extra bedroom and an extra bathroom. That's not cosmetic. That's a structural expansion plus a full renovation on top of it. And the $540,000 difference between the purchase price and today's asking price reflects actual added square footage and added rooms, not just fresh paint and new countertops. Now, before you assume that gap is pure profit, it isn't, and I want to be straight with you about that. A renovation at this scale, adding a bedroom, a bathroom, and 400 square feet of permitted living space on Oahu costs real money, often a substantial share of a jump like this one. What this comparison actually shows you isn't flip this house and pocket the difference. It's a much more useful lesson. In a neighborhood like Kalaheo Hillside, a well-executed renovation really does translate into value a buyer will pay for because buyers here are paying for finished, move-in ready square footage, not just a location. That brings up the land underneath it. The county's most recent pre-renovation assessment put close to 96 cents of every dollar on this parcel into the land itself, not the structure sitting on it. That split matters here for a specific reason. It tells you the renovation dollars went into a structure sitting on land the market already valued highly, which is exactly the kind of improvement that tends to hold its value, versus pouring renovation money into a structure on land the market doesn't support as strongly. The land was already doing a lot of the work before a single permit got pulled. Worth knowing too that 96% figure is the pre-renovation number. Once a sale like this closes, the county typically reassesses based on the sale price and the newly permitted square footage, so a buyer here should expect the property tax bill to shift to reflect this year's number, not last year's, when budgeting for ownership costs going forward. Before I go further, if a rate on a new mortgage is what's making a purchase in this range feel out of reach, there's a financing detail worth knowing about that most buyers never think to ask their lender about directly. A meaningful number of homes across Oahu right now, somewhere around 100 of them, carry a loan a qualified buyer can actually take over instead of starting a new one from scratch. And some of those loans are sitting at rates from years ago, well under half of what a new mortgage would cost you today. I pull that list fresh twice a month, so it's never out of date, since homes come off it and new ones qualify all the time. It's sitting at the link below, completely free. Just enter your email and it's yours. There's a real permitted work distinction worth pausing on here too, because it's easy to gloss over. Permitted renovation work, the kind that shows up in county records, means the extra bedroom, the extra bathroom, and the added square footage were inspected and signed off on along the way, not just built and hoped for. That matters for two very practical reasons. It means a lender can actually count that square footage towards the appraisal, which unpermitted additions often can't claim. And it means a future buyer or an insurance company isn't inheriting a question mark about whether the work was done to code. A lot of renovation value on this island quietly evaporates the moment an appraiser or an inspector finds work that was never permitted. Let's put this property in context with what's actually happening across Kalaheo Hillside right now, because the pattern here isn't unique to this one address. Pulling every single family sale in this bucket over the past 2 years. 27 homes closed, priced from just over $1 million up to $2.415 million. The median time on market across those 27 sales was 15 days, though the average stretched out to almost 28, which tells you the same story it does everywhere on this island. Most homes here move fast when they're priced right, and a smaller group sits considerably longer and drags that average upward. 70% of all 27 sales closed within 30 days. That's a really competitive pocket for sellers who price accurately, and a pocket where buyers need to move with real intention once they find the right home. Break those 27 sales down by price band, and this home's new asking price sits right where the activity is thickest. 3 sold under 1.2 million, 2 landed between 1.2 and 1.5. 13, by far the largest group, closed between 1.5 and 1.8 million, exactly the band this home's 1.69 million asking price falls into. 6 closed between 1.8 and 2.2, and 3 sold above that. Just like the land value split, this is supporting context, not the headline, but it confirms this isn't a home priced at some thin, untested part of the market. It's priced into the busiest lane Kalaheo Hillside actually trades in. Right now, there are 3 single-family homes active in Kalaheo Hillside, and this one is the least expensive of the 3. The other 2 are priced at around 1.9 million and 3.9 million. 2 more homes are already under contract. That's 5 total either active or under contract against that same 27 sale pace over 2 years. Worked out against the closing rate over that window, that lands at somewhere around 4.5 months of supply. As a quick reference, under 3 months of supply usually favors sellers. 3 to 6 months is considered balanced, and anything north of 6 starts favoring buyers. 4.5 months sits on the tighter end of balance, leaning toward sellers. For a buyer, that means homes priced accurately in this pocket aren't likely to sit around waiting for a decision. And being the lowest priced active listing in the neighborhood right now is a real current advantage, not a hypothetical one. For a seller, it means the market here is currently rewarding realistic pricing more than it's punishing anyone. It's worth looking at the handful of recent sales that landed closest to this home's new asking price, because the pattern there is more mixed than the neighborhood's overall numbers suggest. 1 sold in just 5 days. Another took a month. A third took 50 days. A fourth, priced right at this same 1.69 million mark, took a full month as well. So while the 15-day median across the whole pocket holds up broadly, homes specifically in the high 1.6 to 1.7 million range have shown more spread in how long they've taken to sell, which is a useful, real-world data point if you're the one pricing or negotiating in exactly this range, rather than assuming every home here moves in 2 weeks flat. The other side of that same coin, 6 different addresses in Kalaheo Hillside had listings cancel or expire, without selling over that same 2-year window, priced anywhere from just over 1 million to 1.85 million. None of those sat in some strange no man's land. Price-wise, they overlapped directly with where actual closed sales happened, which tells you it's rarely just about the number on this pocket. It's about how a home is presented and how it's positioned relative to what's actually competing against it at that same moment. A renovated home walking into a room next to 3 or 4 homes still in original condition has a real, demonstrable edge here, and the sales data backs that up directly. One of those 6 addresses is a particularly useful example. It tried to sell 3 separate times over the years without finding a buyer. Each attempt at a different price, and each one higher than the last rather than lower. That's about as clear a signal as this kind of data ever gives you. When a home comes back to market repeatedly at rising prices and still doesn't sell, pricing usually isn't the barrier. Something about timing, condition, or presentation is, and that's exactly the kind of pattern a fully renovated, move-in ready home like this one is positioned to avoid entirely. One more data point worth including. When this home sold last summer, in its original condition, it went under contract in 15 days, right at the neighborhood median. This time around, listed at full renovated value, it's been on the market 28 days and counting. That's not unusual, and it's not a red flag. It's simply what tends to happen when a home is asking buyers to value finished, permitted square footage rather than an assess price. Buyers generally take a little longer to size up a renovation premium than they do a straightforward, already priced to market resale, because there's more to evaluate, not less. Now back to what this renovation actually delivered, because the layout tells its own story. Beyond the added bedroom and bathroom, This home also includes a connected one-bedroom, one-bathroom suite with its own separate access. That kind of flexible space is worth understanding on its own terms. It works as a home office if you need to separate work from the rest of the house. It works for guests who want their own door and their own bathroom, and it works as rental income potential if that's part of how you're financing a purchase in this range. That flexibility is a really useful feature independent of who ends up living in it, and it's part of what separates a thoughtfully renovated home from one that just got new finishes slapped over the same old floor plan. On an island where housing costs shape a lot of financial decisions, a legally permitted, separately accessed space like this one gives a buyer options most single configuration homes simply don't offer, whether that option gets used on day one or 3 years from now. It's worth sitting with what this specific before and after actually proves, because it's a cleaner example than most. This wasn't a distressed sale that got flipped for a quick markup. It was a straightforward purchase, followed by a real permitted renovation that added genuine living space and genuine functionality, and the market is currently pricing that work at close to full value. If you're a seller in Kalaheo Hillside, sitting on a home that hasn't been touched in years, this is close to the most direct data point you're going to find for what a well-planned renovation can actually do to your number. And if you're a buyer trying to decide between a renovated home and a fixer at a lower price point, this comparison is the actual math behind that decision, not a guess. It's also worth being clear about what this comparison doesn't prove, because that matters just as much. It doesn't mean every renovation on this island returns dollar for dollar, and it doesn't mean the next buyer here is guaranteed the same math if they resell in a year. What it does show is a specific documented case, sale price, permitted scope of work, and resale price. That's a far more useful reference point than a general rule of thumb about renovation returns, because it's tied to an actual neighborhood with actual comparable sales backing it up, not a national average that has nothing to do with how Oahu's land values behave. One more piece of context on the numbers here worth being straightforward about. Kalaheo Hillside land values have moved the same direction as land values across most of Kailua over the past several years, and that broader lift is baked into both the before and after price on this property, not created by the renovation alone. The renovation added the bedroom, the bathroom, and the square footage. The neighborhood's own appreciation did some of the rest. Separating those two forces out is exactly the kind of thing worth asking your own agent to walk through before you assume a renovation on a different home in a different pocket would produce the same jump. This is also a good moment to say plainly that a home tour like this one isn't meant to be a sales pitch for this specific listing. I'm not the listing agent here, and the goal isn't to talk you into this exact house. It's to walk you through what the actual data behind it says, so you understand the market it sits in, whether or not this particular home ends up being the right fit for you. Sometimes that means this home is exactly what you're looking for. Sometimes it means the real value is in the comparison itself, and the right home for you is one of the other 26 that sold in this same pocket over the past 2 years, or one that hasn't come on the market yet. Zooming back out before we close this one out, a home that sold for $1.15 million last summer is back on the market today at $1.69 million, backed by roughly 400 square feet of permitted addition, an extra bedroom, an extra bathroom, and a flexible connected suite, sitting inside a Kalaheo Hillside market where 27 homes have closed in the past 2 years at a median of 15 days, 70% of them within a month, against just 5 homes currently active or under contract, and this one currently the least expensive of the 3 actively competing for a buyer. That's not a coincidence, and it's not a guess. It's what happens when real permitted work gets layered onto land. The market was already rewarding, whether you're the one buying this exact home or using it as a data point for a renovation decision on a completely different property. The math behind that $540,000 swing is now something you can actually see, not just estimate. If financing is still the piece holding you back from a purchase in this range, keep in mind what I mentioned earlier. There's a running list of close to 100 homes across Oahu carrying loans a buyer can step directly into, some of them still sitting on rates from years ago, well below anything available on a new mortgage right now. I rebuild it twice a month so it stays current, And it's completely free at the link below. Just type in your email and I'll send it straight over. And if there's a home in this neighborhood you've been quietly watching that never actually sold, don't wait around for it to relist on its own. Get in touch and I'll help you find out what's really going on with it before it ever comes back on the market. I'm Oksana with Island Living Oahu. Subscribe and I'll see you in the next one.